Hey, welcome back, knife nerds and everyday care people. It's your boy, the Big Canucker here, and coming at you with a brand new Spyderco here today. Something that I've carried in my pocket for the last couple of weeks, and I got to know, and I gotta say that this is a really surprising knife. All right, let's. Of course, I'm talking about the old Spyderco Canis or penis or penis or potato. I'm not 100% sure, but that's what we're talking about here. The Spyderco Canis is a knife designed by a gentleman by the name of Kelly McCann, who's a counterism terror expert, who's also an expert knife martial artist, and very reminiscent of, if you're familiar with the Spyderco Yojimbo, designed by another martial artist, and you can see that they share a lot of the same DNA. All right, let's go down to the tabletop, and we'll have a look at the hits, the misses, and everything in between. All right, technically specifications here. As you can see here, you have got kind of a bigger knife here at 8.12 inches. And we'll have a look at some of the other more well-known knives and compare the sizes. Of course, here we have got a Spyderco Paramilitary 2. You can see that they're very, very similar size. A Gale Bradley 2, which is a, some of the same kind of DNA here. Let's just make sure that I'm lining up. Oh, yes, there we go. That's good. And then, of course, here we've got the Spyderco Para 3. And that just kind of gives you an idea of the size of it, and the blade itself too as well is actually 3.43 inches long. So it is perfectly in that EDC size of 3.5 inches. And let's kind of put this stuff away here. And the reason I brought out the Gale Bradley 2, and I'll explain that a little bit later, all right? Okay, we have got a close length of 4.73 inches, which is, sub 5 inches. Nothing wrong with that. Blade thickness here is a little bit on the thinner side of 3.0 millimeters. A little bit thinner than, say, your 3.7 of your Spyderco Paramilitary 2. But it does use some really good with this particular knife when you're actually going to use it. Now, the edge length is 3.43 inches. So it is, as long as the blade, you have got the same amount of inches there. They're identical. And then, of course, you've got that great Wharncliffe design here, too, as well. Now, the handle here is the carbon fiber G10, and a lot of people really, really hate that. I, on the other hand, don't hate it if it's done right. And here is the reason I brought this out is because you've got the Gale Bradley 2, and I think it's done really right with that. It's got a little bit of a shine to it. It's got a little bit of a depth to it, where this carbon fiber just seems a little bit flat. It doesn't seem much more than a textured G10, even though like you've got the G10 there. I think if they're going to do that carbon fiber G10 laminate, this side here with a little bit of shine, a little bit of depth to it, I think it looks way more richer than this style right here. All right, if you're going to stay with this kind of duller laminate, then just stick with straight G10. I think it looks just as good, and then you won't have putzes like me whining about it online. All right. Now, it is a compression lock. That is, the world famous Spyderco compression lock. The opening mechanism, of course, it is the Spyderco Spidey hole. The steel is an CPM S30V, so that's crucible particle metallurgy. And they've done this S30. So the S30V steel was the steel that was designed specifically for the cutlery industry. It does things really, really well. Good toughness, good stainless steel, good edge retention, good grindability, good sharpenability. Mirrors up really well, puts a really spectacular edge on it. So it's a great, great steel. Now the weight here is 4.1 ounces. And of course the clip here is ambidextrous, left or right, or tip up, tip down carry. All right, and now you've also got some wonderful things here too as well. Now you've got, of course, the Spyderco spoon carry or spoon clip. I think, there's lots of times here when you can see where my jeans have been stuck in there. There's lots of times when the wire clip is, is better, I think, too as well. I think the wire clip looks better. But I do think that this spoon clip holds onto your pants a lot better. So if you're worried about carrying your knife and you're worried about losing it, I think that this blade does so much more. There is no real crazy hot spots with that blade, with that clip, but I just think that wire clip looks a little bit better. All right, now country of origin. This was built in Taiwan, the Taichung, Taiwan plant. So that the fit and finish on this knife is going to be spectacular, because Taichung Taiwan, I think as far as I'm concerned, has the best fit and finish. And normally they have been doing a fantastic job in keeping their knives sharp when it was delivered. This one wasn't one of those ones. Don't know what happened in the factory, but I mean, it came okay sharp. It just didn't come the way I expect a Spyderco sharp to arrive, and that's like the crazy sticky sharp, or when you put your fingers on it, you're like, ooh, that'll cut me just by touching it. And that wasn't to be with that whatsoever. I mean, I cut through a couple of pieces of paper, some cardboard with it, and it was okay. It just wasn't that laser lightsaber sharp that normally comes out of Spyderco. And it seems to me that the Golden Colorado plant seems to be taking that title away from Taichung. And I've been noticing lately here that the sharpest knives coming out of a factory seem to be the Golden Colorado. For instance, this Spyderco Crewwear, it came from the factory crazily sharp. Like, it was that sticky sharp that you want. And all right, and this one didn't. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the other stuff here. You've got kind of a lower half the blade hollow grind, and it is really quite thin behind the edge. It looks like here you've also got this swedge milled out of the blade. Now, I think that is just simply a light kind of a space saving or a weight saving device that they use with it. But it also had the unintended effect of making this thing an absolutely crazy cardboard cutter. And I mean, like, it is unbelievable, especially if you're cutting through this, you know, this area. There doesn't seem to be any shoulder to kind of really do any sort of hold back whatsoever. Like, it just cuts through that like a knife through butter. And cardboard is one of the worst things to cut through when you've got a knife, because it's irregular. It's got dirt in it usually. It's also got some fine clay when they go to build it, so it's there to dull a knife. And this one here does a fantastic job cutting through it, you know, no problem whatsoever. Now, the ergonomics on this knife are fairly decent too as well. You've got some good thumb jimping here too as well. It's not the most comfortable jimping. It's kind of needs to make up its mind, I think. You've got kind of a thicker jimping here with a thinner jimping on the blade, right? So, you know, it's enough that it grabs your thumb too as well, but it's one of those sets of jimping that would feel, I think, a lot better with a glove to do a lot more cutting. I think after some real repetitive cutting with that, I think you'd probably, if you had veal-like consistency hands like me, you're going to get yourself a blister relatively quick. So not the most, you know, terribly sharp jimping. Because you've got some jimping here, like on, say here, this PM2, and I hate to go back to that all the time, where it seems to grip, lock your thumb in there, but it doesn't seem to tear your hand. All right. Now, one of the other kind of, I would say that's more of a miss on this than a hit is the way the compression lock doesn't give you a whole lot of room to get in there and make it, you know, kind of comfortable to maybe fidget with this or to close it. See, if you've got something like this here, you've got all sorts of real estate here, and even though you're looking at these two knives thinking, well, there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of difference, when you've got your finger on the closing mechanism, this is so much nicer to close. I mean, as a matter of fact, lots of times when I go to close this knife, I close it just like that. Whereas this one here, your Canis just doesn't seem to have that same kind of, I'm not pressing with the pad of my finger, I'm more or less trying to get my fingernail in the laminate. That seems to be more fingernail grip rather than being able to get my hand on it. I also like the fact that this has got the, it would have been nice if they did the little bit larger opening hole in this one too as well, because I think this one's got the 14 mil, this has got the 12 mil, and I think the larger opening hole would just make it that much nicer to open up to as well. Other than that, I mean, I've got double XL hands, so I've got good, you know, handle on this. You know, as far as purchase wise, you know, it's got decent, you know, texturing. It's not going to lock into your hand, I think, as well on, say, like a pull stroke than it is on kind of a pushing forward. Like, I mean, because that seems to be, if this is a tactical knife, it's designed more or less to kind of penetrate, and you're not going to be able to have your hand slip over and cut yourself like that. So you do have great lock-in on the in-stroke, but on the pullback, there doesn't seem to be as much of a lock-in. And it doesn't seem to be super, super, super comfortable. Now, this is more of a better EDC than I thought it would be, knowing that it was a tactical knife. And another big part of the reason here is the fact that you've got that reinforced tip. So where you've got something like, of course, the Spyderco or the Paramilitary 2, which was kind of in the EDC Hall of Fame, one of the knocks on it was they thought that the tip might have been just a little too fragile. Well, this Canis, takes care of that, where it's got a little bit more beefitude there in the tip, and it just allows you to do that kind of, you don't want to use your knife as a pry bar, absolutely not. But sometimes when you're cutting into something sharp, hard, and you run into a little bit of resistance, sometimes you'll twist a little bit, and that's where that will definitely shine. Also here with this really, really super fine tip, it allows you to do a tremendous draw cutting too as well. So if you're using this to, not just cut, say cardboard, but if you want to do some really fine draw cuts, see, even on paper or something a little bit thinner, or even carpet. Sometimes you want to maybe cut through a piece of carpet like that. This is going to do you extremely, extremely well. Now, although as much as this knife has got going for it, it just doesn't seem to really light me up. I mean, I was really, really kind of sick of the Paramilitary 2 when it kind of came out for a bit. I got this Paramilitary 2 in the crew wear, and as soon as I put that back in my hand, I just fell in love all over again. And then after I went from this into this, and it's very much the same. Like, I mean, you've got a really slender edge, you've got great cutting, you've got good ergonomics and all this stuff, but just the Paramilitary 2 does that just ever so slightly. And if I had to choose between these two, hell, I'm choosing the PM2 every day and twice on Sundays. It just blows this away as far as, fidgetability, as far as comfort, all that stuff. But if you're looking for a great technical knife that will do some great EDC tasks, there's absolutely nothing wrong with this. As a matter of fact, it is way more surprising than I thought. And I do like this knife more than I thought I kind of would. And I mostly picked up this knife just to do a review on it. It was going to be perhaps in my collection if I really, really liked it. And unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to put this one in the collection. There's just nothing wrong with it. It just, for me personally, it doesn't light my fire. And that's what I think a knife has to do. It has to light your fire. If you're going to put it in a collection, it's got to light your fire. As a matter of fact, I think, on a scale of 1 to 10, for my own personal thing, I think this is about a 6. And, what does it lose? Well, it loses a little bit on the compression lock. Not because there's anything wrong with this compression lock. It's just compared against the one I really like, the PM2, it's not as good as design as the PM2. The opening hole, is there anything wrong with the opening hole? Absolutely not. It flicks open, spider flick, it does it all. It just seems a slightly little bit more comfortable with the PM2. Just things like that. Is there anything wrong with the handle material? None whatsoever. I mean, if you pretend it's just G10, it's a good-looking G10. It's just not a great-looking carbon fiber, so it loses a little bit for that. Is it the knife steel on S30V? Absolutely nothing wrong with S30V and this kind of hollow ground here with this weight saving. Nothing wrong with it whatsoever. Just S30V is getting to be a little bit older, and if this knife here is a tactical knife that can take some shock and stuff like that, because if you're going to be using a knife like this, it's not going to be just straight draw cutting or just cutting into things. It's going to be hard, quick, violent motions, and perhaps M4 might have been suited a little bit better for this knife than S30V. So there's just a few of the things I think I might have done a little bit differently in order to give this knife a 10 out of 10, and for now it's a 6 out of 10 for me. So man, oh man, I ended up picking this knife up over here at my buddies here at Alberta Firearms. Wonderful, wonderful folks. They are eventually going to be getting themselves a website, but for now you can just go onto their Facebook page, Alberta Hardwares and Alberta Hardware Firearms Limited. And I'll make sure that I leave a link down into the description there. So if you want to pick up this Canis, or you want to pick up anything else that they have got some wonderful Boker selections, including they've got a Boker that's made from steel of the USS Nimitz. They've got a couple of Sherman tank Bokers that were made from Sherman tanks, World War II Sherman tanks. They've also got some Andrew Demko knives that are supposed to be landing anytime now. So don't forget to check out those guys. I know that they will be more than happy to look you up. There's actually Matt there, and there's actually Steven. They'll be looking after you, no problems. All right, so I think I'm probably going to put this knife up for sale too as well. It's brand spanking new in the box. There's nothing that I had done to this knife other than tie lanyard to it, and I ran the edge across my Spyderco. It was my Spyderco ultra fine stone, and then I've got a little bit of diamond spray on it just to touch the edge up ever so slightly. And then I ran it across the strop a little bit. But it's cut a few pieces of cardboard. So this is virtually a brand new knife, and I think if you're looking for it, I will make you a hell of a deal. I think your retail on this knife is probably around $260 or so. I'm going to be just probably a smidge over 200, and then including shipping. So once I figure it out totally, I will let you guys know. But if you want to buy this and you want to take this home, contact me here at my email address here, the Big Canucker or bigcanucker@gmail.com. And I can maybe get this into the post for you today here too as well. So I'll figure it out exactly what it's going to be, but I think it's going to be something like I would say probably $215 plus shipping for this here. Perfect, brand spanking new, comes with the box and everything. Yo Jimbo, Canis. All right, so thanks so much for stopping by. I appreciate it so much. I hope you guys are staying safe out there. Hope you guys are enjoying your 2022. Keep your stick in the ice, the shiny side up. This is the Big Canucker saying adios.